As Anne has explained, I'm chaplain, Jessica Knight. I am the executive director for an organization called Fire Revolution Advocacy for Women Inc. And FIRE stands for Freedom is for Everyone. I am the oldest daughter, dependent of a trafficked survivor. My parents were actually met when my mom was in the Philippines. My dad was in the Navy, and my dad was one of my mom's Johns. And after the Vietnam War ended, he came back to the United States, and he sent for my mother. We're not sure if the trauma that my mother had experienced as a trafficked survivor caused the abuse of me and my siblings growing up. But in my opinion, after doing a lot of my healing of myself and researching what impacts women when it comes to exploitation and being trafficked, how did that impact me as a child? What made it so that my mother did not feel that she could be a mom, that she could not adjust as a survivor or a victim of human trafficking in the United States, where there were all the resources available to her. It wasn't like my dad didn't try. Back in the 70s, there wasn't a lot of resources. But just as Anne has explained, in her experience with addiction, it gave me a purpose. It caused me to rise up and want to do something for my community, for other women that are hurting, but most importantly for the child that a survivor might bring into this world that may not get all of the benefits that our country holds and freedom for ourselves. What ended up happening, because of the abuse and the lack of training or skill, the lack of healing that my mother did not get when I was growing up, made me vulnerable. I was homeless at the age of 24. I ended up getting pregnant in high school. I married my high school sweetheart, but violence attracts violence, so domestic violence, which led to my homelessness. When I decided to come out of being homeless, to get my life together, to be the mother to my children that I didn't have, I ended up getting into very promiscuous and dangerous situations. There was a gentleman that I was dating. We're not sure if he was a trafficker or if he was just a gang member that had shared me with his friends. Again, I don't know if there was a financial monetary transaction, but it had an impact on me as a woman as far as my value was concerned. I was incredibly smart. I did well in school. I was incredibly athletic, but I lost that. I lost that in the translation of not having the love, the support system around me that I needed. What happens when a woman or any type of person doesn't have that support system around them? They go and seek these crazy, destructive things to offset the pain that they may be experiencing. So I decided, after being raped by 3 men in a room one night, that I didn't want that for myself. I walked away from it and just kind of hid. I shut down, and I gained a lot of weight. I didn't take care of myself physically. I was not into drugs. For whatever reason, that gene of drug addiction, chemical dependency didn't hit me, but I was addicted to sex, to food, and bad relationships. And it wasn't until I decided, I'm a chaplain, so it was when I decided to seek out my faith. I wanted healing from how I was feeling, from this darkness, this despair. I started to just wonder, why didn't I turn out like some other people did? Dependents of trafficked survivors end up in a very disparate place. And for some reason, I didn't go there. I didn't have a drug addiction. I was a functional member in corporate America. I've been in the financial industry for over 20 years. So why didn't the normal things that happened to a dependent of a trafficked survivor or even a person that has experienced sexual violence, why didn't I turn out like them? So I started to seek answers in Christianity. And that kind of led me into the chaplaincy program over at Dream City Church, which led me to find answers about, why was my mom the way that she was? Why do trafficked women have such a hard time with recovery? In 2011, I was approached by a couple of men at a gas station who just wanted my phone number. Later, I found out the second person who had asked for my phone number. The first guy was very belligerent, demanding in my phone number. I said no, and finally another guy came up from behind me and said, "Hey man," she said no, she's not interested. And I was so thankful that this man had come to my rescue, but I didn't know how to defend myself. And then he asked for my phone number. Man, he was just like Mr. Right. I thought maybe this was my opportunity. Things had turned around for me. He took me out to dinner. He took care of everything. He was such a gentleman. And 1 month after having dated him, he told me that he was a convicted trafficker. He had served 10 years in federal prison for trafficking women. My parents didn't tell me what a pimp was, so I had no idea. He played it. I mean, there is a reason that the law says that human trafficking is forced fraud or coercion, right? If we think about for a minute what that means, what are some synonyms for forced fraud or coercion? Manipulation, deceit, again, force. Why would a trafficker, a facilitator, force, deceive, manipulate, coerce an individual into human trafficking? Because no person in their right mind would say yes. Is that correct? Would you all agree? And that's what happened. And it's hard to undo that manipulation once the trafficked victim has gone in. So after 4 months, 1 month into it, I was like, oh, okay, but you're not doing it now. You're turning your life around, right? You're here because your kids are here in Phoenix, so maybe this isn't so bad. Naive, that's what predators look for. 2 more months after that was the first time that he raped me. And again, definition is, what is rape? The International Justice Mission defines consensual sex as the ability to coherently and comprehensively decide as a human being if we want to be intimate with a person or reproduce with a person, right? A majority of the time, that's what happens. Two people make that decision. I was not given that decision. It was manipulation, it was kind of foggy. It took me 4 or 5 years to finally realize I said no. No means no. And so it turned into rape. I wanted to end the relationship. There's a lot of other information when it comes to the grooming process. He told me about how the trafficking world works. He had contact with other pimps. He was telling them how to handle, their women. They call them other things, but I'm not going to swear. So I knew a lot. About sex trafficking and prostitution at this point. And because I knew what my mother had been through, I knew what I wanted for myself. It wasn't a life that I wanted. But there came a day when he sat me down, not really sat me down, but he told me, he confronted me, it's time for you to go out and make daddy some money. And I kind of went, what? No, this is a relationship. We're supposed to be boyfriend and girlfriend. I can't have sex with somebody else. That's not how this works. But that's what he wanted, and I said no. He said that no is not an option. It's either you become my victim, my prostituted victim, you become my hoe, or you die, or I hurt your family. So I had choice A or choice B. The defiant little person that I am, I chose option C, which was to run away. I happened to get away. I chose to escape. And I paid a huge price to not be trafficked. And that's kind of the population that I deal with now. I work with Shauna, I work with other agencies across the nation that if a trafficked survivor comes out, wants to get out, it's kind of the same thing, it's listening. It's being that light, being that opportunity of what I did and to pass that on to other women. This was in 2011. I didn't tell anyone for a year. I was so ashamed about what I had done. I had made the wrong choice. I felt it was my fault, completely turned inward. There was a point when he told me it was time to make some money for Daddy, and that was in July. In September, because he kept trying to contact me, he kept trying to lure me back. He was threatening me. First it was the Romeo, hey baby, I know you care about me, I care about you, we can make this work, let's do this. The answer was still no. Then it came, well, if you ever tell the police, I know where your kids work, I know where you live, I will hurt your family. He was a gang member from LA, so I had no doubt in my mind that he would hurt me and my family. And I felt so guilty that I had brought this upon my own children. I still just kind of hid. I didn't meet up with him. I just didn't want to become a prostitute. It was my choice. I felt like I had a choice. And I would rather choose death over being raped by many men. I had had that experience in my 20s and I didn't want to have it again. So in September, I was in the chaplaincy program when this happened. I was in my first year. I just remember I was in this place of depression, devastation, and I actually did go to the side of suicide. And I remember being in my room in September, quit everything, took some time off of work. And I remember sitting in this room, saying my last prayer to God, and saying to him, there wasn't an option about whether or not I was going to kill myself. I was just saying goodbye. And I told the Lord, I am so sorry that I am such a disappointment, that I disappointed you, that I disappointed my children. There is no way I can get out of this. And I remember hearing his sweet voice say to me, give me one more chance. If you give me one more chance, I promise you, I will turn it around for you. And nothing to lose. I said, okay, I believe you. I have no idea what this looks like, but I believe, that you give me one more chance. I just wanted to be able to hug my kids again. I just want to hug them one more time and tell them how sorry I am. So a year went by. Thank goodness I had the support of my church, because I did not have the support of my family. I didn't have that strong support system because of all the abuse that was back there, because of all the confusion, identities, and my dad and my mom. And so I had my church family. And I remember when I told them, it was such a relief. And they came around me and they gave me that love that I needed. They gave me that strength to carry on, to do the right thing, to truly turn my life around. And then the following year, that's how I met Christina, I was serving at the Phoenix Dream Center in their human trafficking wing, learning about victims, and it brought healing to me to learn why these women were so broken, the trauma they had experienced during their time of being trafficked or even just being exploited, any type of violence that they may have experienced. And I felt that I had been set aside and healed so that I could be a light to other women that are out there working still. My organization, we do 4 different things. We do outreach, we do victim relief, which is where if a woman wants to come out or needs assistance in not going in, we help her, victim relief program. And then we also do 2 types of awareness sessions, which is something like this, where we just kind of share my story, or we share the impact and devastation that when it comes to the definitions, the Google definitions, sexual exploitation versus human sex trafficking, as well as why is it illegal to purchase sex from an adult. So those are just some of the things that we do. I hope this gives you guys some idea when it comes to a victim, when it comes to an individual that is vulnerable. I use the word vulnerable a lot because that's what a predator preys upon. There's a thing called Maslow's Law. They step in, the trafficker will step in and try to find out what the need is of this vulnerable person. And I am so excited for what Anne is doing. I'm sitting back here listening to the different programs, the different people, the different things that I can add to my own organization to make us stronger, to be able to serve our community, and make people aware of when you have a young person or any type of individual that has been traumatized by sexual violence, exploitation, or has been trafficked. There is help for them now. We can't just ignore that anymore because we're part of the problem and not part of the solution. If we want to become part of the solution, it's events like this and being able to know who to reach out to refer the person to. The biggest thing in my organization is when a woman comes out, is she ready? We call it going through the fire. Is she ready to go through what she needs to go through to get the healing that she wants to be able to integrate back into society, just to feel love again? And so again, we provide that service for her. And then we also, again, just try to be a light to them. So. And I did it very different. Right now we're just doing the strip club outreach, but we've done street outreach, we've done the internet back page, jails. We have a jail outreach where we send encouraging messages to women that may be at risk because traffickers actually prey on them because the Corrections Department website is a public website. So you can get a woman's address, see what she's in there for, and if she doesn't have a support system, then they can put money on her books, and then when she gets out, it's time to pay daddy back. So, prison, we've done transportation, which is the airport, as well as the bus station. Greyhound is a big one. I have been assisting women in exploitation and trafficking for about 6 years and have helped about 300, rescued about 50. And I'm going to say a majority of them are my friends on Facebook from all over the country. So if you go to the website, it's meant for women that we do outreach to. But there is some information. My story is on there. My ministry partner's story is on there. We're still adding information about the advocates and why our outreach, as well as our victim relief advocates, do what they do, why they have a heart to assist women. We work just with adult women. Because if we have a minor, there's a lot of state laws and stuff like that, so we usually hand them over to law enforcement. Not that we really haven't had any minors, but I've had a couple, and we've literally handed them over to law enforcement. So, any other questions? Good group, keep following up. This is a really exciting time. I'm very excited for what's coming forward. Just having grown up in it, and wanting it to come to an end, to to eradicate human trafficking is really going to come from us wanting to be involved. And involved just means information. Any type of community-based organizations you are connected to, bring this information to them, invite people. Doug's still here. I work with the city of Phoenix with their newly housed homeless program. And there's a lot of victims in there. My organization, this is how we get trained, is we go through the city of Phoenix. Church for the Nation actually does the mentoring for the housing program. So I have my one newly housed homeless mentee. I love working with her, but she's incredibly independent. So everything that he has shared is incredible. We have that here. So if you guys want to become a mentor to a homeless person, that's an opportunity. There's lots of opportunities to get involved and volunteer, and it's really, I feel, as a community, we're going to turn it around. We can just do it in Phoenix. I'm excited that Doug's part of all of this because I have confidence, I've been doing this for 6 years, that it's going to finally turn around. So, any other questions? Thank you for letting me share.